What do you say to young people like that who have come to expect shootings in their schools?
They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't be afraid to go to school. They shouldn't worry about the fact that they might not go home that night because some crazed person comes in with a firearm, which is one of the reasons why the NRA for over 2 years has been advocating a program called School Shield. And there's finally legislation for it. I think there's $75 to $100 million appropriated by the federal government to assist in it. Look, if School Shield had been in place in Santa Fe High School, far less likely that that would have happened. The problem that we've got is we're trying like the Dickens to treat the symptom without treating the disease. And the disease in this case isn't the Second Amendment. The disease is youngsters who are steeped in a culture of violence. They've been drugged in many cases. Nearly all of these perpetrators are male, and they're young teenagers in most cases. And they've come through a culture where violence is commonplace. All we need to do is turn on a TV, go to a movie. If you look at what has happened to the young people, many of these young boys have been on Ritalin since they were in kindergarten. Now, I am certainly not a doctor, I'm a Marine, but I can see those kinds of things happening and endangering those two gals.
So let's get specific, because this was the 16th school shooting so far this year. That is the most at this point of the year since they started keeping records after Columbine in 1999. 2, 3 key specific things that you think would keep our children safe.
Well, one, School Shield would. Because School Shield,
which is what?
It's a program. The NRA introduced it 2 years ago. We'll go do an assessment. Costs the school nothing. Costs the taxpayers nothing to get the assessment as to what the issues are in terms of ingress, egress, the ability to hide a firearm and get it into a school, the number of school resource officers you really need, and very few schools actually have that.
Yeah, but let's just talk about that if I may just talk about that specifically. This school had 2 policemen armed roaming the halls. The school administrator said yesterday they considered Santa Fe a hardened school.
But there was no way to detect a firearm being brought into the building. Look, you and I came through the lobby here in this building where we're sitting right now. There was a security desk there. There was a barrier for us to pass through. You can't get on an airplane today without going through a metal detector.
But I was going to say, there's no metal detector in our building. Are you suggesting that there be a metal detector? And I'm not saying that's wrong. A metal detector at the entrance to every school for millions and millions of students?
Well, if you want to stop the carnage, look, you're not going to fix it by taking away the rights of law-abiding citizens. You've got to fix it in a way that hardens the place sufficiently that those kids are safe inside the door. If that means 5 metal detectors getting in and out of a high school, you get 5 metal detectors.
Okay. Cameron Kasky, one of the Parkland students who has led the March for Our Lives movement, tweeted this after the shooting. Donald Trump does not care about you or your kids getting shot. And here's what you've said about the Parkland school movement. What they did very successfully with a frontal assault and now intimidation and harassment and law breaking is they confuse the American people. Question, what's wrong with students like this fighting, they would say, for their lives?
Look at that is taken out of context, as people are fond of saying in our business. I was talking about the people who've organized the harassment, the vandalism, the threats, the hacking, and thrown the full force of the First Amendment against the Second Amendment. And they're leading the cause. These kids aren't the problem. They're being used by forces far bigger than they are to make sure that the Second Amendment goes away.
Who is using the Parkland students?
We know what Mayor Bloomberg was up to. We know what George Soros has funded. I mean, in our business, he's gone. His creations have gone after you, me, and everybody else has ever been at
Cameron
Fox.
Kasky would say he's speaking and working for himself, and those other kids are.
Okay, but my point being, I was not criticizing those kids. Your next guest is going to be a person who's an advocate for more gun control. He's got a First Amendment right just like I do. I believe that what we're doing right now with the National Rifle Association is trying to make sure that kids are protected without taking away the rights of law-abiding citizens. And that's all it's about.
I got less than a minute left. You say that one of your jobs as the incoming president at the NRA is you want to reassure politicians with all of this movement now for gun control that it's a good thing to be associated with the NRA, not a liability. How's that going?
Well, My goal is 1 million more members. We have 6 million now. We've been around since 1871. It took us that long. I want to get 1 million more, and then I'm going to go out and ask every NRA member to recruit 1 more. And that will put 14 million activists on the street. Not the types of George Soros is fielding, not the types that showed up down there in Dallas to protest our right to gather. Those are going to vote for people who support the Second Amendment. That's our cause.
Ollie, thank you. Thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure.
Now let's bring in Mark Kelly, the retired astronaut who